Yeah.
You know, and you can't. Not I'm I'm the same way. I've got medication that I take. It makes me go. Sometimes I got to pee right now.
Well, I just want to,
Yeah, but yeah,
touch bases with you.
yeah, yeah. And so if you have to go,
Yeah.
you have to go.
Okay.
You know.
Often they eat only the richest parts, the brain, the roe, the skin, and leave the rest. What's left behind feeds scavengers, fertilizes the forest, and drives one of the largest transfers of energy from ocean to land. In the Arakan Desert of Turkmenistan, a crater 69 meters wide burns without interruption. Flames cover the entire floor, except by methane rising from deep underground. At night, the crater glows against the desert, a ring of fire visible for kilometers. Locals call it the gates of hell. But this was no natural ignition. In 1971, Soviet engineers were drilling for gas when the ground collapsed beneath their rig. The equipment fell into an
Good morning.
No. Is it in?
Good morning. How are you?
All righty. We are here. Apologize for the tiny little bitty late start, but yeah, no, gotta do what you gotta do. Everybody doing all right? We have our sign-in sheets going around, so please sign in. I saw yesterday one of the um, ladies from North signed in her whole name. I appreciate that. I was getting that at the right spot because the first name is the same, but I wasn't really absolutely sure. But since you put your name on there like that, now I'm absolutely sure I was getting that to the right person. So I appreciate that. Everybody bring their book. We're on page what? 21. Everybody's on page 21. We're going to look at that. We're still talking a little bit about families, but today what we're going to be talking about mostly is communication. And how many people know that communication is really important? Really important in your family. We need to be communicating on that type of level. And we're going to talk about 3 types of communication styles that we all use these styles. So we're going to talk about them and look at them and see what they do. First thing we're going to do is go through here and look at this on our families. We have family health, of course. First, we talked about being estranged. That means being separated from them. Then getting a little place where it's a little bit more secure. And then we hit middle ground. And we decided yesterday that middle ground wasn't all that bad a place to be. And now we are at a place of willing partners. And our family should be willing partners. That should be one of the goals that we have, is to have our families to be willing partners with us in our recovery. So when your partner is when your family are willing partners, and you view your family and loved ones as willing partners, or at least those key members who will remain close to you. While some minor conflict resolution or relationship repair needs to occur, there's still a little bit of mess going on, but the overall health and stability of your family relationships are strong. So if you're in that situation, you're doing really, really well in your family, but that's not the end of that. So look, we all realize that I'm not going to be here tomorrow morning because, we don't do group this way on Fridays. We have video on Fridays, so I'm not going to be here tomorrow. So what we're going to do real quickly is go over the one for Friday as well. So at the end of all of this stuff, we get to that place where our family and ourselves, we have a different relationship, and we are loyal. It means we are loyal to our families and they're loyal to us, and honest. So you have established relationships that exemplify reciprocal loyalty and honesty, in which you and the other party are generally and mostly interested in actions that are mutually beneficial. Missteps and conflicts are rare and evolve from genuine unintentional conduct or action. Sometimes stuff just happens, right? And we need to get to the place where that's an okay thing. Sometimes stuff just happens. Here's the deal. I need to know that if stuff just happens a lot, then that's problematic, right? We don't need stuff just happening all the time, but it's going to happen. So there are 3 types of communication styles that we use. And these communication styles, sometimes when we say communication, it means more than just what you say and how you relate to other people. It means how you're living your life and all of those kinds of things. So these communication styles go beyond just us talking about something. They may be something entirely different. Just how I live my life and how things are going on and how I respond to other people. And so we're going to talk about that just a little bit. And if you'll notice, we have the three styles represented on the board up here today. And this is this person is just passive. And sometimes a lot of us are passive in our communication skills. That's not where we want to be. We want to get away from being passive. I will tell you that passivity may be a little bit better than the next one, which is aggressive. Passivity means that I'm the one getting run over all the time. It's always about you if I'm a passive person. Let me tell you this morning, I'm not a passive person. It's not always about you. Now, I've told y'all more than once that the way God wants us to have this thing is that He's first and you're second and I'm third. I do operate like that. That's how I want to operate. However, a passive person is always about you and never, ever about me. And that's not good, is it? Passive people can have all sorts of issues. So, the next one is aggressive. So if you're aggressive in your communication style, so what does that mean? You may be angry a lot of the times, and angry communication is not communication. So if you're angry all of the time, it's always about you. It's never about the other person. It's always about you. So if it's always about you, then that's not a good place either. That's not where we want to be, because it can't always be about the other person, and it can't always be about you. So what do we want to do? We want to be assertive. So assertive means that it's not always about you, and it's not always about me. It's about both of us. It's a win-win situation. So if we do our communication style is assertive, then it's you come out a winner and I come out a winner as well. So we're going to talk a little bit more about these things and some of the ways that we're going to be able to do them. Let me get to it here. It's on. I got the one that's supposed to be first on the back on the bottom, and that's just got them backwards. So that's not good. So we're going to talk a little bit about these things, and then we'll ask some questions and stuff. So passive communication. When you're communicating in a passive way, during passive communication, a person prioritizes the needs, wants, and feelings of other people. Now, that's not always bad, but we need to do that to some extent, but it doesn't need to be what we do all the time. And look, sometimes we do that even at our own expense. And I do that sometimes at my own expense. There was somebody I knew the other day that had a need, and so I fulfilled the need, fully expecting that person to come back and say, "Hey, thank you. Payday went by. Here's how you fulfill my need. I appreciate it." Payday went by and they ignored me, and they've continued to ignore me. It's like that never happened. So sometimes if you're passive in those, and it's okay, I'm not going to say anything about it or anything like that, but if you're passive in those kinds of situations, you do sometimes, you defer to those people to the extent that it is not good for you. So it's at your own expense. The person does not express their own needs. They don't stand up for themselves. That can lead to being taken advantage of, even by well-meaning people who are unaware of the passive communicator's needs and wants. So people will just take advantage of it. So look, here's the deal. I've been taken advantage of many, 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 many times. Not because I'm a passive individual, but because I'm in the ministry and I know what people are going to do when they do it, but I know they have that need. So I allow that to happen. But, we can't do that all the time, can we? I can't be passive. I can't be passive all the time. Why do you think people are passive? Why do you think people get to the place that they're passive? Yes, sir.
Some people, especially if they confess the Lord, when you do something for somebody, it's untypical.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Expect God to bless you, which He did not.
Well, yeah.
Because they ain't gonna let you down all the time.
No, and I think that's more ministry lined, up. That's not being passive. That's being, what God would have you do. I don't think that's really passive. When people when we can say that they are passive, that person's that way all the time, and they never get their needs met. Bible tells us if we give into the ministry, then He will repay that 30, 60, or 100 times. But if we give to someone that's poor, He'll replace that by exactly what they give them. You go out here and give somebody that's poor a $10 bill, God's guaranteed to get you that $10 bill back. So that does come back. But He doesn't. He said you can be bold. You don't have to be passive all the time. What do you have? Say that again.
To be liked.
To be liked. I guess that's true. I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. I want to be. I want everybody to love me. I do. That's one of the problems with that is you become a people pleaser.
Like they possibly have like self-esteem issues.
Yeah. Oh, that's a big one. Yeah. Some of these people who are passive have some real deep self-esteem issues. This is why when your kids are growing up, what should you do? You are going to build into your children self-esteem. You will. This is part of your job as a parent. You're going to build that self-esteem into your children. The issue is that sometimes you're going to build low self-esteem. Other times you're going to build high self-esteem. So a lot of that comes from what you say and what you do, how you respond to that kid. And so a lot of the times when they grow up, they're going to be this passive person. So, passivity can come from how you grew up and how things happened when you were a kid and all of those kinds of things as well. So, and look, here's the deal. We don't want to build into our children to be passive people. We don't want them to do that because being passive, like we already said, is going to cause us to be run over and done things like that, and we don't want to do that. We want to be a winner sometimes ourselves. What if you've grown up, you were a child, you're an adult child of an alcoholic or an addict, and you're at that place where you're really down on yourself and you're pretty passive? What do you do now? If you've discovered that you are passive in the way that you do these things, what do you do? Anybody got an idea? What can you do?
And walk away.
Walk away? Yeah, we need to get out of the situation. One of the things that we need to start doing, one of the reasons that people are passive is because they have low self-esteem. They don't feel like their opinion is worthy. They don't feel like what they have to say is as equally important as the other person. So what I'm going to do is listen to the other person no matter what that person is saying, even if I'm not really happy about what that person's saying, or even if I don't like what they're saying at all, I'm still going to bow to their demands instead of my own. That's because I have very low self-esteem. And if I can't build up how do you build up your own personal self-esteem?
How do you do it?
Yeah, how do you do it?
I love yourself.
By loving yourself a little bit more? Well, that might be true. Maybe by respecting yourself a little bit more. That might be true. There's a couple of really big things. Just something that you can do that's an accomplishment. Do something. Do something. You know, if you can go back to school, or you can get a job, or you can get to group on time, or you can do something to build your own self-esteem. That's a small accomplishment, but for some people it's a big deal. You know, one of the things that we need to do is get some type of accomplishment in our lives so that we can look at that and say, yeah, I did that. I did that. Not only did I do that, I did that well. Right? So, yes, sir. Need Mr. Bell? Okay. So, you know, I did that well. One other one that we have talked about a bit, I don't know that we've talked about it here lately, and I don't know that we've talked about it well, and I don't know that we've talked about it on a deep enough level, but one of the things we need to do is have some positive self-talk going on. You know, we need to be talking to ourselves in a positive way. I saw a thing not too long ago, or it might have been 100 years ago, I don't know. But it was a little kid that looked like he'd just been through the ringer, man. He was tore up and all of that kind of stuff. And he said, you know I'm okay because God don't make no jumps. You know, we need to look at who we are, you know, and I'm a Christian. I believe the Bible. And in the Bible, it tells me that I was fearfully and wonderfully made. You know, a lot of times we want to look at ourselves and get down on ourselves. I will tell you this, we don't need to do that. Because there are tons and tons of people out there who are willing to get down on you for you. You don't have to do it yourself, right? They will get you. And they're, you know, so if nobody else is talking good about us, we need to be doing that. Some of the times, look, it's not really egotistical or braggadocious for us to take a look at ourselves and find the good. Because I'm going to guarantee you I can look at myself and find the bad, right? All sorts of things. I've got addiction problems in my life. I'm lustful. I'm a liar. I do all of these kinds of things. I'm trying to get out of them. I have you know, I'm in recovery from all of that kind of stuff. I'm working on that. Sometimes I fail, but those bad things are really easy for me to find, and it's really easy for me to get a hold of them because look, there are so many people in my life that are willing to tell me that. Right? There's a ton of people. Every now and then, I have somebody do something that's outside of myself that's good. Y'all remember the spindle top came in, right? Was that yesterday, day before yesterday? Spindle top came in. I had the dysfunctional family guys on the board, and the guy came in and said, "Man, that's some great stuff. There's an artist in you." Well, he don't know me too well, but you know, I didn't tell him I did it, but still, he ought to know. My self-esteem went up. Yeah. I know you guys are never going to say, you know, anything like that, but people that are outside of here, I said, okay, that's great. You know, thank you, sir. I appreciate all of that kind of stuff. But I'm saying that in my mind because I didn't tell him at all. I just left. You know. But sometimes it's easier, all the time, it's easier for me to find the bad things on myself than it is for me to find the good things. Here's the deal. I have to struggle to find the good things. I have to look for them. And when I find the good things, I need to be talking to myself about the good things. Sometimes I need to be building my own self-esteem. Right? So is there anything good about you? What's good about you? Oh, come on.
Situation.
Say it again.
Situation diffusion.
Your situational diffusing. Man, that's good. You need to come to my house and live. That's a big deal right there. I'll tell you one good thing about you. You can be 30 minutes late for a group and sneak in. We never know it. Yeah. That's one. What's one good thing about it?
I'm a loving person.
You're a loving person. Yeah. Okay. So what's one good thing about it? You don't have anything. You don't have anything good about it.
Honest.
You're honest?
I'm honest. I am on time. I am productive. I'm your father, your dad.
Yeah. We said one good thing. Now you're bragging. Now you're bragging. Yeah, I'm dang near perfect. All right. So what's one good thing about you? Yeah. You're intelligent. Okay. And egotistical would be another, but we're not going to. No, we're not. That would be a bad thing. Yeah, that would be a bad. All right. So you two guys are sleeping up front. What's good for you? What's your good thing about you?
I'm honest most of the time.
I like the way you say he's honest most of the time. What's a good thing about you?
I'm very family oriented.
Okay, that's a good thing. Very, very family oriented, all of that kind of stuff. I'm family oriented to a little bit. I'm kind of compassionate. Sometimes I'm compassionate, like you said. Sometimes you're honest. Because sometimes you can just take compassion to so far. I want to be compassionate all the time. My God tells me to be. He said, if you have the fruit, if you have the Holy Spirit in you, you have the fruit, which is love, joy, peace, long suffering, kindness, goodness, gentleness, long suffering. And what long suffering is, that comes from compassion. If you talk about, if you study the Lord Jesus, one thing it always tells you about him is he was compassionate. That's why he hung on the cross, because he had passion for everybody. Sometimes I have compassion, but not all the time. Yes.
Yes, I just got a question about that, and about the Bible. They say that Seth was alive for 912 years. Is their years different from our years?
Nope.
So that some man was 912 years old.
Yep. Didn't have arthritis or nothing like that. Well, and this isn't a Bible study, but way back then, before the flood, all of that stuff, the world was different. People were bigger. They figured that Adam and Eve were like 9 foot tall. People were bigger. There was no rain. It never rained, but there was so much water and stuff in the atmosphere that people were breathing more and more water than we do today. So they stayed hyperhydrated, and so that caused them to live for a longer period of time. But then God said, "I'm going to give them up to 120 years, so you can live to be 120 years." So that's what I'm shooting for. I'm gonna be in here about 120 years old. So y'all just hang on for that. So thank you. Some of you came up with some good things about what was good about you, but sometimes it's hard. It kind of seems like we're bragging. It kind of seems it's a little bit harder for us to figure that out. We talked about that. I've had my mom tell me growing up, don't toot your own tutor. Don't brag on yourself. You never brag on yourself. You always let somebody else brag on you. Is that true?
Yeah.
Yeah, it pretty much is, because you're going to sound pretty egotistical and all of that stuff. When I'm perfect, y'all all know that pretty girl who knows she's a pretty girl. She's that ain't good. Or that good-looking guy who knows he's a good-looking and walk. There used to be it still is. There's a song out there that says, when you walk into the room, you watch yourself in the mirror as you pass by. Yeah. And all of that stuff. That's going a little bit overboard. When I'm talking about tooting my own tutor, who do you toot your tutor to? To yourself. You don't have to tell anybody else in the world. Now sometimes you can. I don't mind telling people I'm a good singer. Stuff like that. I sing pretty well because they come to church and they hear me and they know it. I don't mind doing a little bit. But look, there's a whole lot of the times when I've got this idea that I need to say that I'm really good at this or really good at that. And the one person there's two people in my life that are really, really good listeners to what I have to say. What are they? Who are they? God is number one and then myself. So I can talk to myself all the time. And when I'm talking to myself, I'm usually positive about what I have to say to myself. So, toot your own tutor, but toot your own tutor to yourself. And the reason we're using positive self-talk, when somebody says, "How are you doing?" What do you think people are going to say if you came up to them and said, "How are you doing today?" What do you think they're going to say?
Probably say,
Well, commonly, a lot of people are going to say, well, I'm okay. A lot of people are going to say, I'm fine. But a bunch of the time, people are going to say, well, my lumbago's acting up. It hurts when I do this. I've got this problem with my sacroiliac, and it ain't sacroiliacing in quite the right way. And so we're going to get all of that kind of stuff. We're going to bring out all of the bad things. So when people come and talk to us, say, how you doing? We ought to be working in ourselves to come up with a positive thing to tell them so that we can build our own self-esteem. We all have self-esteem, but some of our self-esteem is down here. As addicts, a lot of the time, knowing what we've done, that gives us guilt, shame, and remorse. And so what that does is bring my self-esteem down here. So I've got to build my self-esteem back up. And I get it to a level where I want it to be. Where do I want my self-esteem to be? And a lot of people have it down here. And, if we can get it up here, that would be much helpful. Be a lot more helpful. But I want to get my self-esteem up here somewhere. I want to know who I am. Because of what the Bible says about me, that I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And so if I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, I'm kind of something special, right? And I do believe that. So I also believe that you happen to be something kind of special. So that's the other thing that we can do is we can help build other people's self-esteem. There's people in the group right now that there's something good about those people, right? And they may not know it. You know anything about anybody in this group that's good?
yeah,
You want to share it?
yes, everybody.
Everybody. See, that's a cop out.
No, I'm saying like everybody in this group, they
Got something, huh?
yeah, it's strong will, like, cause we obviously don't have addictions, so we can do something.
Yeah. Yeah. There's all sorts of people in here that's got something good. So, passive communication is something that, look, we need to be working at getting it out of our life. We don't need to be passive. Passive is usually the one that gets beat up, gets run over, gets all of that kind of stuff. But usually, what's good about a passive communication style? What's good about a passive person? They're usually not very dangerous, right? They're going to sit in the corner. We've had people come in here that are passive. I've had people been in this group, sit in this group for 45 days, and never say a word. The whole time they're here. Never. And so you think maybe those people are passive. Think they might be?
Nothing wrong with that.
Say it again.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yes, there is something wrong with that. Had you been listening, you would have heard by now why there is something wrong with being passive in this group. So there is something wrong with being passive. We don't want to be passive. Now, here's the deal. If you choose in your life that you're going to be a passive person, that's who you want to be, okay. Then that makes you a victim for the rest of your life, and welcome to it. Because that's not who I am, and that's not who I want you to be. I don't want you to be a victim. I don't want you to be passive. I want you to be somewhere else. That's what the group's about. So we don't want to get a hold of it. We don't want to be passive. We don't want to grow our children up to be adults who are passive people. That never works out well for them. Okay? If you see somebody that's in a whole lot, they're a victim. They've been in a victim stance. Everything's always happening to them. Most of the time, their communication skill or communication style is passive. And we don't want to do that. So, passive people do these things. Passive communication, they prioritize the needs, wants, and feelings of others, even at their own expense. They do not express their own needs. They do not stand up for themselves. This can lead to being taken advantage of, even by well-meaning people who are unaware of the passive communicator's needs or wants. They are usually soft-spoken or quiet. They allow others to take advantage of them. They prioritize the needs of other people over their own needs to the point that they can hurt themselves. They have poor eye contact. They look the other way in group when you're having group. They don't have eye contact with you. In the United States of America, when we're communicating, we are supposed to have eye contact, right? We're supposed to have eye contact. We're supposed to look at each other in the eye when we're talking. That's considered respectful in the United States. Is that considered respectful all over the world? No, it's not. It's not. So, in places like Japan, other Asian nations, it is not respectful for you to look them in the eye. It's more respectful for you to cast your vision down, so you're not looking them in the face. So, it behooves us to know who it is that we're talking to when we go there. So a passive person would be a little bit better off in a place like Japan than they would be here. These people, passive people, they look down, they look away, they don't want to talk, they don't want to be looking directly at you when they're talking to you, stuff like that. They don't express their own needs or their own wants verbally. They're not going to let you know what they need. You can be in the whole conversation with them for the whole day and never know that they have something in their life that they need to get out, or they have a need that they need fulfilled. Because they're being very super passive, they're not going to let you know what they need. So they have a very low level of confidence. They're not confident in who they are. So a person who's using a passive style of communication or living a passive life, they don't have a lot of confidence. So this is what we were talking about. We need to do something to help build our confidence. And as we build our confidence, that's going to help build our self-esteem, and that's going to help us to move out of the passive state. Don't want to be passive. Now, if you do, whose business is that?
Your own business.
It is your own business. Exactly right. If you want to be passive, that's going to necessarily mean that you're going to be a victim the rest of your life. And if you're okay with being a victim, then be passive. But we don't want you to be a victim. And we also don't want you to be passive, because it's not healthy, it's not good, and you will not stay in your recovery if you have a passive communication style. If you stay passive, you become a victim. Let me tell you something. Here's one of the things about victims. Victims never win. Victims never win. They never get sober very long. They never get to the top of their potential. They just don't do it. Because every time something happens, they're always a victim. Well, I can't do anything. I can't do it. I've never been. Okay. So we don't want you to walk out of here as a victim. We want you to learn how to be a victor, not a victim. Right? That make more sense? I want to win in this thing. I don't want to be a loser all the time. Right? So, and that's not saying anybody's a loser in here, because we're not. But if we have this passive lifestyle, then it's going to lead us to be that. So what's next? We don't want to be passive. Passive is terrible. Passive is horrible. You can't be passive. So what's the next? Aggressive. We don't want to be aggressive either. We don't want to be aggressive. What does aggressive mean?
Consistent.
Consistent, you said? Yeah. You had something?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say angry.
Angry is aggressive. How many people here interrupt other people when you're talking? My wife used to do that a lot, and we had to have a real serious talk about that several years ago. That's aggressiveness. when I'm speaking over somebody else, or loudly speaking. I'm talking so loud that they can hear me down the hallway, but the person that I'm talking to can't. We've already blown their ears out or something like that. Then that's aggressive behavior. Getting too close to people, being way too forceful. That's true. Getting right up in somebody's. Y'all ever known anybody that was a close talker? Wanted to get right up in your face? My grandson came to stay with us for a little while, and he's taller than I am, and I was cooking some eggs or something because Grandma wasn't there; she was gone. And I was going to ask him how many he wanted, how he wanted them, something or other. And I turned around to talk to him. He's right there in my face, and I'm telling him, boy, step back, get back. I have about a 2-foot radius here. I don't want anybody in. I don't want people that close. I don't want to know what you had for breakfast. I don't know. I don't want to know what you had for lunch. I don't want to hear. I don't smell your breath. So you step back a little bit when, that's aggressiveness when you're real close to someone. Now, this guy we have up here, and this lady is looking down and she's all dejected and everything. This guy here, he's on fire. He's spitting on people when he's talking to them and all that kind of stuff. And he's got his voice to a level that's way too high. And he's just aggressive. And when we're aggressive, who wins? Most of the time, it's all about me. It's not about you. So I'm not concerned with whether you have a need in this conversation or not. I'm not concerned whether you have this issue or you have an issue that needs to be dealt with or not. I'm just going to get my way. And that's why a lot of people use anger, because it's called power thrusting. Because I'm not really worried about the rest of the people in the world, but I'm going to get my way. And so that's a real aggressive communication style or lifestyle. And if I live in that lifestyle, then I'm going to tell you that's not a good place to be either, because the other person is always going to lose out. And we're going to be helping them stay in a victim stance. Yes?
Yes, I was wondering, and if passive and aggressive sort of way.
Say that to me again. That was like Greek or something.
And does passive aggressive go hand in hand?
Yeah, they do. If somebody is passive and somebody else is aggressive, they kind of hook up together, because the aggressive person is looking for someone who won't be aggressive back. Usually, now I'm sure you folks have known aggressive people. Usually, aggressive people are, they have some fear and stuff that's working in them, and they have some insecurities that they're trying to work through. Now, y'all don't get freaked out, don't get scared, but Santa Claus is walking down the street. That's his second job. That's his other job. I don't know what they're doing. Yeah, they were big old beard and everything. Santa Claus, and I guess that other guy must be an elf. I don't know. He's dressed like an elf. Sorry, ladies, y'all can't see what we're seeing. There's a big guy with a big old white beard and all of that kind of stuff. So I don't want to be aggressive either, because here's the deal: everybody is worthy. Every one of us has the same self-worth. You are worthy. And here's the deal. If I'm aggressive, that takes away all your worthiness and makes me the only worthy one in the room. If whatever prize there is to win, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it every time, and you're never going to get it. You're never going to get it. So, that's just not the way it should be. We should not be passive people, because passive people get run over all the time. They become a victim, and they stay in their victim stance for most of their lives. It's just not a good place to be. We should not be aggressive, because aggression causes other people to be in a victim stance, and nobody ever gets anything but me. And that's not a good thing either. So we don't want to be aggressive. Here's some of the things about aggressive behavior. Though through aggressive communication, a person expresses only their own needs. Don't care about anybody else. I know people like that. How many of us want to be around people like that? I don't. I don't want to be around people like that. If you're aggressive all the time, you can go away. I don't want you around me. Because when you get aggressive, it's going to make me defensive. If you want to get in my face, okay, I'm going to get defensive, and I don't like being like that. We can live, that puts that fight or flight thing to going, and we can live in that fight or flight stance for a while, but not for a long while. And it causes all sorts of stress and anxiety and all kinds of stuff in our life, and we don't want that to happen. So, I don't want that to happen in my life. So they only care for their own needs, their own wants, and their own feelings. They're the only ones that matter. They're the only ones. And so that's not true. The other person gets bullied. A lot of family violence, domestic violence happens because one person is aggressive, the other person is passive. If both people are aggressive, at least both of them will defend themselves. But if you get a situation where one is aggressive and one is passive, then the person who is passive is going to be in trouble. They're going to have a lot of abuse in their life and all of that kind of stuff, and spend most of their time trying to figure out how to get the heck out of it. So, a lot of the times the other person is bullied, and whatever needs they have are not met. Now, when we get somebody in our lives, we have a spouse, we have a partner, we have somebody in our lives, we are supposed to be meeting some of their needs, and they're supposed to be meeting some of our needs, and so it works out pretty well. You can't ever find anybody that's going to meet all of your needs, but they're going to meet some of your needs, and it's only right that we meet some needs back, right? But if I'm only concerned with my own needs, then I'm going to have an issue. So some of the things these guys do. Listen, this is the aggressive communication person, the aggressive lifestyle person. These people are easily frustrated. They're easily frustrated. You ever known anybody easily frustrated? I get frustrated. But I'm going to tell you, usually I put up with quite a bit of stuff before I get frustrated. But then sometimes I get frustrated. And I know, I've seen people in the group that get frustrated. Some get frustrated very easily. Others, it takes a while to get them frustrated, but you can get them frustrated. So, is frustration normal?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. If there's enough junk in your life, you're going to get frustrated. And if you get frustrated, you stay frustrated for a long time, you're going to usually burn out. You're going to have some health issues. You're going to have some of these other things. So what do you do if you get frustrated? What do you do? Take a 5-minute time out. And that's a really good advice. He said, take a 5-minute time out. Look, sometimes it takes longer than 5 minutes. That's why I'm going on vacation next week. Sometimes you need some self-care. Sometimes you need to sit down. Because here's the deal. If you don't, that frustration can get a little bit too high. And you take it out on other people. And do we deserve that? You all right? Yeah. Then, if we get frustrated, we take it out on other people. Let me ask you this. Do they deserve that? No. You're trying to make me a victim. You ain't going to be able to succeed in that. But you're trying. But there are people out there you can make a victim. And that's a sad thing. And it is not fair to other people. If you're that frustrated, what I need to do when I get frustrated is separate myself from the situation, like you on set for a while, maybe 5 minutes. Sometimes 5 minutes will work. Sometimes 15 minutes is better. Sometimes, it takes days, weeks. Sometimes it takes a minute. So, easily frustrated. They will speak in a loud and overbearing way. I've had so many people that came through here, and some people do have those types of voices Even if they're speaking in a normal tone for them, it sounds loud, and because that's just the type of voice they have. But even if you have that type of voice, you know that. People have told you that your whole life. So if you just pick it up 1 or 2 octaves, it's just not good. You're really blasting people out, and they speak in that overbearing, loud. You don't have look. I don't have the best of hearing, but I got $6,000 worth of ear things on, hearing aids. I can hear you. You don't have to scream at me. You don't have to raise your voice. And it's not polite, and it's not right for us to raise our voices to somebody else, is it? No, we don't need to do that. Don't need to do that. So a lot of time frustration will lead you to that. One of the problems with these folks that really gives us a big deal is they're just completely unwilling to compromise. I don't want to do that. Okay, well then let's do this. I don't want to do that either. Okay, what do you want to do? Whatever you want to do. Y'all ever been in that argument? I have. And they're completely unwilling to compromise. It's their way or what? The highway is my way or the highway. You either do it the way I want to do it or you get out of here.
I'm not experiencing that right now.
Are you? I'm so sorry about that. That's not good, is it? What do you do in a situation like that?
I'm up for suggestions. What would you do?
Well, what I do is take the situation into my own purview. I would do, if somebody is really overbearing, they're doing all of that kind of stuff, and they're unwilling to compromise, I'm going to take a look. Do I need to be with that person? If I really want to be with that person, they won't compromise with me at all. I'm going to take the situation into my own thing so that I can do it myself. Here's the deal. I'm 72 years old. If I need to go do something, I'm going to go get that done. I'm going to do that. If I ask the person, I told them just probably 10 years ago. And I know I bring my wife into all of this, but I don't know a lot of people other than you guys. But about 10, it might have been even longer, 10 or 12 years ago, I went to England. So I told my wife, I said, look, I want to take a vacation. She said, great. I said, okay, let's go to England. No. What? I don't like to fly. Well, it's only like a 12-hour trip. Come on. You can sleep. You can do it. No, I don't want, she wouldn't compromise at all. I said, well, if you don't want to go to England, let's go to the U.S. Virgin Islands. That's a 4.5-hour flight. It's no, not gonna do that. So I said, okay, where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? I want to go somewhere. We can get on an airplane. We can fly. I don't like to fly. I'm not going. We just can't go. So she said, but we'll go on vacation. Guess where she took me? Louisiana. I love Louisiana. Louisiana is a really nice state. It's a paradise, sportsman's paradise. It's not England. It's not England. So when we got back, I told her, I said, look, I'm going to England. She said, I'm not going to go. So did I go? No. Yes, I did. I stayed 9 days. And I went to England, Wales, and Scotland in that 9 days. So she did not want to compromise. So I took it upon myself to do what I had to do beyond her. And Scotland, England is right here, and Scotland is right above it, just north of it. Oh, it's beautiful. It's fantastic. Lots and lots of hills and mountains and all that kind of stuff. And what they call lochs, which are lakes. And yeah, it's a beautiful country. You need to go. You need to be on over there. So, but if somebody, and look, why won't people compromise? Sometimes they're hard-headed, yeah. Sometimes it's their way or the highway. Yes, they're stuck in their ways. Say it again, selfish. Yeah, sometimes they're just selfish. I felt all of those things about my wife, but why wouldn't she compromise? Scared to fly. She's scared to death to fly. Now, she has flown with me. We went up to Rhode Island, and we went to Las Vegas and a couple other places like that, and she flew, but she did not like it at all. And when she got out of that airplane last time, she said, I ain't going to do it. I'm not going to do that again. Oh, okay. So she was scared. She had a reason to be obstinate. So sometimes when people are not willing to compromise, it's not that they're not willing to compromise. They're not willing to bend to my will. Well, you're not doing that because I want you to do it, but you're not doing it. What? So now I'm being a little bit aggressive because now I want you to bend to my will. I want you to be a victim for me, and I'm not willing to do that. Especially when it's something that I could do myself. You go do that. You go take care of that. That's your business. And sometimes it looks like they're unwilling to compromise. They've done bent over backwards 1,900 times trying to figure things out, but then they can't. And so, then it falls back on me. So look, my glasses somehow or another got upside down. So they're unwilling to compromise. Not going to do it. There's a few more things we're going to look at this. But we'll look at it here when we get back. We're going to quit a little early and take our break. So let's get back in about 15 minutes after. We'll get started.
Man, what you do today? Huh? What you do today? Oh. Hey, they had me go out there today, but just had this shit set up. I'm glad I went because I know. Yeah, you had like I had you that long. What?
You said something.
You swinging that hand, like.
Trying to get my hair on my face.
Alright, so public.
What's it gonna do? No.
Alright, so public.
I'm a hot mess. But I'm a surviving hot mess.
Okay. There's a heart in a shape. Bro, I started. I'm gonna lay it down, man.
So we could make it a debit, right? What would you do? Or no? Like 10.
Oh, Bobby.
He went to the
He been to the doctor all this week.
Man, I'm not trying to do this for night, no.
7-3.
Oh,
7. She ain't like it last. She ain't like it last night. Yeah, she.
I've been by. Suez Canal. Suez Canal. What? Oh, okay, just go get on back there, walk back there now. Hey, downstairs. Y'all had done the red one?
Oh, you did?
Look next to the what?
I said,
I don't know. They got away with spraying the closet. Look, after man, Abraham,
oh, you just walk through here?
look at me. This guy,
Yeah.
stop. Space.
Oh, they laying out. Can't do that. Can't do it.
But he probably living conscious around us. He probably look like that's the like
Yeah. Right. On that 30-day fast.
uh,
I still want it. I took a shower. Still like it. I believe it's at 30-day fast. I thought I was
Oh, they got the,
he's down on
dope right there. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to pay attention. Yeah. We ain't putting in no hot six so good. And Charles. That's the truth. Come on now, let's be real. Shoot. Well, I mean, yeah, you do. So we have another 1:30. Oh, it's 1:30. 2:30, 2:30, 2:30. Yeah, it's 3 to 4, and then
6:30. 6:30.
we got 6 meetings every day. Sometimes at 4:30, at 3:30, I think we have codes. Then from 3:30 to 4:30. Oh, then we eat at 5. Then we come back at 6:30. 6:37.
Man. Wow, when the automatic mode supposed to roll like fire. It made me take my medicine. That's what's wrong with me. That medicine they make me take at night. It don't let go by one.
That's when it just started kicking in.
That's when it just started kicking
I take them anxiety. Yeah.
in. I used to be on that shit, but yeah, that's my doctor to get me off that shit. I was going crazy off the pills, man. It caused heck of hell in our room now. Trying to turn them on.
Yeah, you bitch long enough, huh?
Yeah.
I was the one that's doing that. I need that air. Sis came over. Sis.
Yeah, not bullshit. It's cold in that room.
Yeah. Weekend. Hey, shit. You're so silly. Go somewhere, sit up. Been drink, sir. What? You been drink coffee?
Huh?
You been drink some coffee?
You already made it.
It's
He's gonna be ready by the time he say, y'all don't get up and drink.
I guess I need to drink something.
Anybody want anything?
Ain't nothing left in there.
Yeah, it has
Hey,
to be over.
I was getting already straight running up. Hello. No, something gotta be wrong. I ain't gonna have to smoke a
Yeah,
cigarette.
that's why I was sitting there. I'm like, hold on. Sitting there for a while. I blew you to the seat.
I'm on my way.
Mr. Luke, come see.
Oh, yeah.
That ain't gonna work.
Okay.
Not gonna work. That's the boundary. I guess I think you gotta be better than walking.
I wouldn't be well to it.
Cabbage.
Oh,
I said, no. I said,
What? Nah, cause he already was like got a problem with it.
No, ain't nobody got no problem.
Said
Just don't have a real out or something. You don't need to be out.
hey, what? That shit wrong one, nigga.
Come on. Worthless.
He got 1 day big time. All that guy had one day. But matter of fact, why can I have more than that? I want to be like,
I had to one day, Mr. What's tonight was going to say that you're wrong.
appreciate it.
okay. Yeah,
what do you like?
you said it right, yeah.
I have to sleep on the couch.
Hey, I hope it's not.
It's not they brag about that hard shit. Think about the more I said.
So,
Man, she wouldn't let your head with them.
Come on, man.
Bro, what?
Niggas talking about yeah. Go ahead.
I ain't never seen no one.
Man, you got the third behind me.
That's what I heard.
Everything on goes, man. That ain't got nothing to do with it. That's how the fuck. It's a softball. Shit, my hand. So I don't know why the fuck you don't put some safety certain big hands on. It's like, that's why I play this building. But you not the hand, you know, yeah, you know,
This fucker's supposed to be fun.
nah, I'm not saying it, yo. So,
We're gonna drop this plane if we play.
it's half the time, shit. Like, nigga, I'm still on the side of my shit, nigga, what's the time? But one thing was, good love, that's why I really got quiet. Yeah,
Got money.
I will. Yeah, cause your ass ain't supposed to be fucking love. And then, shit, what you expect? I was baby.
Now, every hand said, wait, nobody gonna do that. Come on, man.
On this bullshit.
Man, go ahead and just sit there. Come on, say, go ahead. Don't start drinking chicken feet and shit. No, like, I can't go for me. You jump in the car, you lose.
All the face card, all that shit. Yeah. You know, they got 12 minutes.
There's nothing about it. Okay. We'll go ahead. Okay. Wow, go shit walk. Yeah.
I know what I got to see. I know I'm looking.
So, she did it again. Fuck up.
Get mine. So I ain't something really great. I thought it would be something like this.
What's good for accuracy, y'all?
You like yeah, green and red. Hey, you're the boy. I told him I'm going to need 6 of just for one thing.
When I got to that, like a full week, like I see the big and I know it's bad. Because you want
Hey, what's wrong? Oh, you took the time out. I think I'm way worse than you
Alright, time to get it going. Maybe through a little bit early. No, that hurts your feelings. Alright. Might be through a little bit early. Oh, I know you want your money's worth. So there's a few other things that a person who is aggressive will use, and we need to look at that and understand that, if that's what I'm doing in my life, I need to stop that. Do I ever use any of the stuff that's considered aggressive? Yeah, I do. Well, not all the time, but some of the time. And some of the time, if you're a victim, it's what you feel like. If you want to be a victim, then that's what you feel like. But here's what I will do is sometimes these people who are communicating aggressively, or their lifestyle is aggressive, they use criticism a lot. And I can find myself being critical. And I know a lot of the time you guys in the group, y'all feel like I'm being critical. And look, let me tell you this, I don't mean to be critical in that. I'm trying to be more assertive than aggressive, because if you're in the group and you're asleep, you're not getting anything out of the group. If you're in the group and you're being, resistant in the group or something like that, that's not helpful for you or for the group. So I'm going to point that out, and sometimes it sounds like it's being critical. That's not what it's meant. If you're late to the group, we have people come to the group. We don't want to point out who that might be. It doesn't really matter who it was, But there are some people who come to the group, halfway through the group, so they miss part of the group. So, and it may sound critical for me to put, he had a really, really good reason, which he let me know, so, he don't have to tell you that. He had to tell me, but he don't have to tell you. Use of criticism, use of humiliation. Have you ever talked to somebody? Have you ever known anybody that We try to humiliate people when they talk to them.
Belittle.
Belittling, yeah, that's a good word. Say it again, yeah.
Yeah, what?
See,
Okay.
that could be. See, that's kind of humiliating. You know, like that's his business. Ain't not his business. So use of criticism. I was going to use an example and use something humiliating toward him, but he's so calm and everything, can't humiliate him very well. So they'll use they just be disrespectful, criticism, use a lot of humiliation, and here's one of the ones I cannot stand: domination. You're gonna get and look. I have run into guys who are bigger than me my whole life. I'm not that big a guy. I'm 5'8". I weighed yesterday 140 pounds. So I'm not a big guy. So I run into these, and a lot of the times these guys will try to dominate just because of that.
They fast.
Yeah, I don't get dominated really. So. Yeah. So, and they'll do that a lot of times. Now, listen, we already talked about this a little bit, but frequently, always interrupts other people or does not listen while they're being spoken to. Now, I'm going to tell you one of the things I learned a long time ago is you can learn something from the nuttiest people in the world. You can learn something from anybody that you're talking to as long as you will listen to them for a minute. You have to make a practice of listening to those people. And so, if you decide you don't want to listen to those people, you're going to miss something. You just are. So we need to make a practice of listening to what other people say. We also need to make a practice of never, ever interrupting anyone. We don't want to do that. Don't want to do that. Now, let me tell you this, and I apologize for it every time I do it. But when I do an assessment, I tell people, I was out of prison for all of those years, and sometimes we'd have 10 or 12 assessments a day to do. So out there, quality came in second to quantity. We had to get it done very quickly, get it through, get what we could get to get you in the program, just to check that box. And so, here we are, we're doing all of them, and I tell people now, I got to do some assessments tomorrow, maybe one today. I let people know that, look, when I get the information that I need, I may speak over you. And so I want people to know, because I'm gathering information and that's it. And people like to talk a lot of the time. And I ask somebody a question and they want to give me, a 45-minute spiel on why this happens, when all they get, it's a yes or no question. So when they tell me the answer, I'm going to go to the next question. And sometimes I'll speak over people doing that. And I apologize for doing it. Even if it's a necessity or is something I see as a necessity, it still doesn't make it correct. It still doesn't make it right. So I apologize for it because I know it's going to happen. But if we're just talking, if we are just having a conversation, whatever it is that we're talking about, we should not be speaking over people. That's about the same as ignoring people. But now look, this is one of the reasons sometimes I'll get quiet, I'll stop or call somebody down or something in the group. When you're talking to somebody else while I'm teaching, is that disrespectful? Absolutely. When you're ignoring me and you're talking to somebody else, first off, you're not paying attention, you're not learning, you're not getting anything out of the class. Neither is the guy you're talking to. Because he's having to pay attention to you. So don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Yeah, don't. Don't. That's not correct. It gets you written up every time. You don't need that. So don't do that. Just don't do that. It's disrespectful. Here's the last thing on the aggressive communication is disrespect toward other people. See, when we do things like that, it's disrespectful. If you're not interested in all of that, come talk to me after class. If you're not interested in the class, something like that, I'll set you up so that you can teach it. and you might be more, you know, you might do it a whole lot better than I do. You might be more interactive than I do or something. I don't have a problem with that. I've asked people in the past to do it. We've had some guys do some pretty good stuff. You know, I've got to give you the information, and then you get prepared and you do a good job of it, and you're not very good. So don't be disrespectful to other people. You know everybody deserves your respect. Is there anybody out there that you don't respect? I will tell you this, I can't think of one. There was Mark Twain. What did Mark Twain say? Never met a person I didn't like. I never met a person I didn't like. I am not Mark Twain. I've met tons of people I did not like. But it doesn't make any difference whether I like that person or not. I still have to respect that person as a human being.
Right.
When I was in the military, they asked me when I was at a promotion board, and they said, you know, if you get promoted, you're going to outrank a whole bunch of people in the unit. Or do you have any friends in the unit? Yes. Yes, got lots of friends. How are you going to deal with the fact that now you outrank all of those people? How do you deal with that?
Hey, dude, don't change. You're treating the same because of mistake when you go to your job.
And he wouldn't have gotten promoted. You do have to change a little. Here's the deal. You can be friends with everybody as long as you respect what's on the call.
Mm-hmm.
That's the correct answer. As long as you respect up here, it doesn't make any difference if you're my friend, if you're my brother, if you're in the same unit I'm in. Even if you're not, you have to respect the rank that's on my collar. And nowadays they put them on the front of their shirt, but you have to respect the rank that gets up here. And so that's the deal. You don't have to like somebody to respect somebody.
Exactly.
That's a big deal. You know, we need to understand that. You know, I respect everybody I like. That's easy for me to do. But I respect everybody in here. I respect your permission and your permission. I respect your opinion. Your opinion is valid. Sometimes people have opinions that have been proven to be wrong. I respect you as a human being, and I will let you know that that opinion is not correct. You know, but you still, even if you don't like that person, even if you have an issue with that person, you still have to respect that person as. And so when I'm doing things that are disrespectful toward that person, then I need to check myself. I check myself, because if I don't check myself, what happens? Somebody's gonna check me. Sooner or later, somebody's gonna check me. I can't have all that, you know, that kind of bad behavior. I can't do that and expect people won't at some point check me. We might let a little bit of it go. If you're having a bad day, okay. Is it okay to have a bad day?
Yeah.
I've had bad weeks. This week's been pretty rough. You know, I've had bad months in my life. It's okay to have a little bad spell down through there. But just because I'm having a bad spell, do I need to make you have one?
No.
No.
For the life.
I need to do, like you were saying, Terry, go off somewhere and sit down somewhere else for a minute. Right back. I don't need to cause you. I don't need to cause you any grief because I'm in. So they do use a lot of disrespect towards other people. Now here's the big deal. I do not want to be passive. Passive is not a good place to be. Passive is going to lead to victimization, and when you become a victim, you never can win. Your life is over. You know, you're just a victim. You know, nobody loves me. Everybody hates me. I might as well go eat worms. Y'all know where that comes from? Yeah, that's a British lullaby. They sing that to their children. Nobody loves me, everybody hates me, I might as well go eat worms. Little bitty fuzzy ones, with big glory ones, all
That sounds like you go to sleep to that every night.
Yeah, every night. I sing that to myself. I sing that to myself. That's all right. We know y'all got that part already. We know. So what was that? Was that aggressive on my part? Was that aggressive or?
Not really.
No, just calling you out a little bit there. All right, so here's what we want to be. We don't want to be a victim. This is probably the worst thing you could possibly be. is being a victim. Seems to be harder to get people out of being in a victim stance than it is to get them from being too aggressive. When people are being way aggressive and stuff like that, usually you can go and point that out to them and show them this is where, this is aggressive when you're talking over other people. That's aggressive when you're having a conversation in group and you're not supposed to be. That's aggressive behavior. When you're over speaking people, when you're interrupting people, that's aggressive. When you're getting way too close, you don't recognize it, you don't realize it, that's aggressive. You need to back up just a little bit, give people a 2-foot radius where they don't have to, get that close to you, smell your body odor, all of that kind of stuff. Those things are aggressive. Yelling, having a high voice, even if your voice is normally gruff, you can still keep it at a respectful level. So, you don't need to do all of that kind of stuff. So that's a lot of the times people who are in an aggressive place, they can bring that down. But people get into a really deep victim stance, it's hard to get them out of it. They actually believe in their believer that they are worthless. They believe in their believer that they don't have the right to be the winner in that situation. They believe that that other person has more rights than they do. And that's unfortunate. When we're talking about when God said it's God first and others second, that's my choice to make others second. When people get into a victim stance, they feel like they don't have a choice, that they just are that naturally. And that's not true, because everybody has inherent worth. And so everybody does, So where we want to go is with this guy. The idea was to make this one look way dejected, this one look way angry, and this guy pretty much at peace with himself. He's all right. Everything's going on in his life pretty well. So he's assertive. He has an assertive communication style, an assertive lifestyle. So assertive communication emphasizes the importance of both people's needs. We need to get a hold of that. It I can't say the word now. Emphasizes the importance of both people's needs. During assertive communication, a person will stand up for their own needs. I'll stand up for my own needs. I need you to pay attention in class. Part of the program. I need that. I need that to happen. Because my boss, I meet every Tuesday with our boss, my boss, and they're in there for about 2 hours. I can only stay in there about 45 minutes, but I have to give a report on the group. Are people paying attention? Are people doing it? You think people are getting it? Yes. Yeah, I'm the best teacher you ever hired. So yes, absolutely. We've got some of the best material. I've written a whole bunch of that stuff. It's really good. Yeah. But if you don't, guess what? No, not paying attention in class at all. At all. That comes sleeps in all of the classes. All of that gets reported. So I need for you to do those kinds of things. So, but your needs in this situation here is to get the material. Whether you use the material, whether you follow through with the material or not, your need is to have the tools that the material gives you so that you can leave from here, use those tools in an effort to stay in our recovery. I use this all the time, especially these days. I'm very assertive in my lifestyle, very assertive in my communication. I want to make sure that my needs are met. I'm going to stand up for my own needs. I'm going to do that. This is what I need. So during assertive communication, as a person stands up for their own needs, for their own wants, for their own feelings. So I'm going to make sure, that sounds kind of aggressive, but it's not. Because I'm going to make sure that my needs are addressed, whatever I have. Now here's the deal. Some of the time, those needs cannot be met by 100%, can they? Maybe they won't be. Maybe they're only going to be met by whatever, by 50% or 60%, and whatever give and take it is. Do you think, look, using the group again as an example, do you think if my need, if my wants, if my desires is to get 100% of attention from the group while I'm teaching, do you think that I ever achieve that?
No.
No, no. But letting you know that I'm assertive about it, letting you know that that's my needs. That's what's expected in the group. That's what we need to get from you in the group. I do get some of that. I do get some. There's a couple of people in, that go sleep. They're going to go sleep. I know they're going to go sleep. And they just do. Now, Miss Cynthia is supposed to be checking to make sure that if you're asleep, she's supposed to write you up. But she's nice, kind, good, sweet. She don't do that. If you walk out of group, we're supposed to raise our hand and all that kind of stuff. We won't just get up and walk out. If you do, Miss Cynthia is supposed to write you up. She don't do it because she's this nice, kind, sweet. She's just wonderful. I love her to pieces. But I get some of that because why do you think I get some of that attention and stuff?
Keep you on your toes.
Well, and I make it known. I don't let you come to group and just say, okay, I'm in group. I let you know that your attention is needed. You're supposed to be here on time. Coming to group 10, 15, 20 minutes, that's not acceptable. You're supposed to be written up for that. It's not acceptable. Getting to a group on time is a requirement of the program. If you can't do that, you can't stay in the program. All those things are requirements. So I make my needs known to you. So when my boss says, does so-and-so come to group on time? Yeah, never does. I never seen him in group. 10 minutes late, 15 minutes late every time. So when it comes for time for them to say, okay, here's your we had a person get an unsuccessful discharge, didn't finish treatment plans and didn't come to group on time and slept in group and all of that kind of stuff. So it is all. Yes.
So shouldn't we let our needs be known to?
Absolutely.
Now, Bishop about it. Generally, he went through the program unsuccessfully, finished and everything.
Yeah.
But what good would it do to go through the program, successfully finish it, but then don't have a place to go?
Oh, that'd be bad. Yeah, that'd be bad. So I'm saying you need to deal with some. Here's the deal. We do the very first thing that we talk about when you get in here. When you come in, I meet with everybody that comes in. We had a new guy come in today. I'm going to meet with him probably today. The thing I want to know is what's your discharge plan? Where are you going? What do you when you get out of here? Where are you going to go to? What's going to be your place to go to? And we really our team is really serious about that here and at North. We want to know where you're going. If you don't have a place to go, we want Miss Courtney is going to help to do the very best that she can to go and get you some, going to have like the sober living houses and stuff like that. She's going to do all of that kind of stuff. There are personal things out there that you have that you can take care of on your own. That's not my recourse. We're drug and alcohol abuse. That's where we're focused on getting your drug and alcohol abuse issue under control. Your housing and stuff like that is periphery. We want to make sure that that's there. But, we don't have, we can't call an Uber. Sometimes we don't have transportation to take people places and all of those kinds of things. But absolutely, you're supposed to make those needs known. And then here's the deal. When I make my needs known, have you pay attention in class like that, and if I don't get my needs 100%, that's what we were talking about, I may get 70%. Some days I get 60%. Some days it's as low as 50%. So, okay, I've made my needs known and I've gotten some of that, so I have to accept what I've gotten and I've got to move forward on my own. Because, that's my needs, not yours. So here's the deal. If there's something in your life that's your need, that ain't my need, that's your need. So in that, and I think I know what you're talking about, but there's been 14 different solutions that have come up with, and none of those have worked. I think they're going to be talking to you again today about that. But
I should secure my place as a resident, even though I'm in here, right?
I would.
That's necessary.
I would. I'd call my wife and have her go to the bank and do that. I'd call somebody. I would do something. I would call my bank and say, and that, all of that. But you're right. You need that to be taken care of.
So is it possible to have a 24-hour grace period, take care of your business before taking a longer hour, come back to the program?
No.
That's not possible? It never happened?
Well, see, and when the group is over with, got the training done, let's go back there and we'll talk about it. And that'll help you get your needs taken care of. We do want to make sure that you get your needs taken care of, right? We don't want you to have, because some of that stuff can lead to relapse and all of that too, right? That's why we work with some of that kind of stuff. But when it goes right down to the basics, we're about getting us off of drugs and alcohol. Yes.
So basically, I'm not saying that it's not. From what you're saying, it sounds like this is like just a little bit more important than what he's talking about.
I didn't say that.
Well, I'm just saying
I think that is very, very important. I think that may be one of the most important things in his life right now. But it may not be within my ability to take care of that for him.
Yeah, I mean,
he may have to do something on his own.
I understand.
So, and that's between him and other people. So, but we try to do all of that stuff that we can. But see, I'm not getting my needs met now because there's 3 people back here talking about something that's not part of this. So here's the deal. We stand up for our own needs, rights, and all of those kinds of things, wants and feelings. But, who's talking? Oh, they're back there talking. But what we don't usually do enough of is also listen to and respect the needs of other people. Your needs don't matter. My needs have to be fulfilled. This is what I need. Well, wait a minute. I need this. And I have no purview to fix what your need is. I can't help you with that. Well, no, you better. No, I can't. So what I need to do is, look, I need to listen to and respect the needs of others. I'm going to tell you this, that I want y'all to get a hold of this and realize it. I may not be able to fulfill every need you have. I'm not capable of that. I don't have enough time, money, or intelligence to fulfill every need you have. I would like to. I want to. And we will on every level that we can. But there comes a point, if I can't do it, you just got to say, okay, you can't do that. I have to do something different. So, yeah, yes. What's that again? Compromise. Yeah, compromise is a wonderful, isn't it? And that's what I'm all for compromise. Let's see, how can we compromise? Sometimes there's no compromise.
Right.
There's a lot of people with there's no compromise.
Okay.
Yeah, they are. Yeah. Like that rule where you raise your hand when you start speaking in class. Some people just don't want to compromise. Some people
Like my sobriety.
But
I
believe that. I believe that. My sobriety will not be compromised. Here's the deal. What do you mean when you compromise? What does the word compromise mean?
Come up with a solution.
Basically,
No. Negotiation. Negotiation, giving and taking. I have an immovable position over here. It's immovable. It's immovable. I'm not going to move from this position. Well, I'm willing to compromise. I'm not. I'm not. Well, you got to do something different because we can't do that. Well, this is what I have to have done. You're going to do it. No, I'm not. We're just not. We can't. So you're going to have to come up with something. You need to compromise some. If I'm telling other people I need to, and that was a great thing, but if I have to have, I want you to be willing to compromise, guess who else needs to come? You need to be, look at it, see what can be done. If somebody tells you, okay, look, we want to feed you today, and we want to feed you steak. We want to have steak. Okay, steak is good. We want to have steak. Okay, but we don't have any steak. However, we do have bologna sandwiches. Now the deal is, I don't want bologna sandwiches. I want steak. So the compromise is, okay, at some point, you're going to have some steak. But today, to keep from starving to death, you may need to eat this bologna sandwich. So if somebody says, I can't do that, I need to be willing to compromise with that. Okay? So I will guarantee you in some of these things, these ladies back here have worked their tails off, and they have gone up that line all the way to the top down there, and can't do it. Yes, sir. You had one word a while ago. What is it? You had one word, compromise. What's the word?
Oh, no, it's not a word.
Okay.
It sounded vaguely similar to your workshop story.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just curious, how long have you been messed up about that workshop?
How long has I been messed up by the pork chop syndrome? I don't know. How old am I? It's been that long. It's been, no, probably not until I was for about 68 years. I've had an issue with that. Thank you for noticing that. So here's the deal. I need to listen to and respect the needs of other people. Sometimes people can't fulfill your need. And sometimes people can't fulfill your needs to 100%. Most of the time, people can't fulfill your needs to 100%. So if people can fulfill my needs to 50%, do I need to accept that?
Yeah.
It's 50%. You know, if you go up and if you need $1 and somebody says, I ain't got no dollar, what you got? They say, well, I'll give you 50 cents. Would you say, no, I don't want that? It's $1 or nothing, Bubba. No, we take 50 cents, wouldn't we? Yeah? So we take what we let those people help us where they can. Where they can't, we need to be understanding. You know what I'm saying? Okay, you said you can't do that. If we need somebody to break that down, can't means can not. Can't do it. I cannot do that. So if they can't do it, then what can you do? What can you do? And sometimes it's nothing. You're right. Sometimes it's absolutely can't do anything. But other times there is something. So if I can we can talk about it. We can do something. So we need to do that. So assertive communication is defined by a couple of things, two things. Assertive communication, assertive lifestyle is defined by first confidence. I'm confident in who I am. I know who I am. I know what I can do, right? I'm confident in what I can do. And when you come and tell me, look, I need this, if I can do that, I'll be confident about it and I'll tell you, okay, no problem, I got that. But if I can't do it, I also have confidence enough to know that I can't do everything. And I'm just going to tell you that. I can't do that. You have to do something different. And a willingness to compromise. That's assertiveness, a willingness to compromise. Okay, you can't do that 100% for me. What can you do? Well, I can do 70%. Okay, praise God, that's good stuff. Maybe, look, I can't. All I can do is 20%. All I can do is feel bad about it. Okay, that's 10%. We can talk about it. That's 20%. Maybe we can call somebody and get them involved with the conversation. That's 50%. Maybe I'm going to compromise. We're going to get something done the way, that's the best way in the world to do that. My wife and I, on the 24th of next month, I won't be here. I forget which day that is, but we will be married 53 years. I'm not going to be up here. Not going to be here on that day. She and I know you're tour. But we're going to go somewhere. We're going to have a nice meal. We're going to go somewhere. I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to do something. I never know what we're going to do until she tells me. We're going to do that tomorrow.
Okay.
We're going to a dinner theater tomorrow. So we need to have the willingness to compromise. Now, here's some things that people who are assertive communicators have an assertive lifestyle do. I didn't want to interrupt y'all, I'm sorry. Because I have an assertive lifestyle. Listens without interruption. Listens to what the other person has to say without interruption. When I'm talking to somebody, they've got something to say. Sometimes people have something to say to me that's off the wall, doesn't sound very respectful. All of that kind of stuff hurts my feelings sometimes, frustrates me a little bit. But do I listen to it? I do. I listen to everything they have to say, and then I expect, it doesn't always happen, but I expect for them to listen to what I have to say as well. Now, the exception to that is when I do assessment. I'm more than likely going to have to do 3, maybe 4 assessments tomorrow. So you think those may be a little rushed? Yeah. Yeah, I usually take a good hour to do an assessment, but I've also got a clinical meeting in here that could take half a day. I don't know. So I may be up here really late. I wanted to have the time to put my truck together before we headed out. I want to tell y'all a good story about all of that. I told y'all that the RV place out there, they charge $200 an hour for labor. Isn't that great? $200 an hour. So we took our trailer over there. They had 4 or 5 things they needed to do on it. They fixed a turn signal that had a somewhere down through the line. It had a short. They fixed that. They took out the couch and put in a chair, and they fixed that. They redid some stuff underneath that wheel well, so they fixed all of that. They did something else that I can't recall. They fixed all of that stuff, and I'm figuring that's going to cost me $2,500. You know, they called my wife today and told her it was ready. It can stay where it is until Saturday. We'll pick it up there for no charge. They're not going to charge us for rent for having it sit there. And they didn't charge us any labor at all. And the whole thing's, the chair costs $675. And so they're just charging us for the chair, no labor at all.
Lazy boy?
And that, no, it's my wife's chair, so I suppose it's a lazy girl. So I don't know. But see, that's just a God thing, because I've been praying about, all of that. I didn't want it to cost all that kind of money. It cost $600, $670, something. That's just good stuff. So when you're assertive in your lifestyle, you listen to other people without interruption. They have something to say. When I'm interrupting someone, when you're talking to me and I interrupt you, it means that what I have to say is, in my own mind, it means that what I have to say is more important than what you have to say. And therefore, if what I have to say is more important than what you have to say, then that means I'm more important than you. Is that true? No. We're pretty much equal, right? Everybody here is equal. Ain't nobody more important than anybody else. They clearly state needs and wants. I don't want to talk to somebody for 10 or 15 minutes and then they have to guess what I really needed. They have to guess what I really wanted. When I go down to McDonald's and I order a pie and a cup of coffee, what do I want to get? Pie and a cup of coffee. Yeah. I went down there not too long ago. I don't eat those pies anymore. I hadn't eaten them in a long time. But I went down there. McDonald's is the only fast food restaurant that I know of that has coffee all day long. So you can go down there anytime and get coffee. So I went down there to get some coffee, and that morning I got a breakfast sandwich. Starting there. Got a breakfast sandwich. And the girl said, "Do you want hash browns with that?" I said, "No, I don't eat potatoes. Potatoes are really bad for me. Don't eat them. Don't eat French fries. Don't eat hash browns. Don't eat the crap." Okay. So I went around, I paid for my food, and when I got my bag, it had my breakfast sandwich, my coffee, and hash browns. So what did I do with them stinking hash browns? I ate them. I'm not going to, I ain't going to throw food away. So I ate it. And so that was horrible, But, so I didn't get what I wanted. But clearly states needs and wants. So when we get through the conversation, you ought to know what I need. You ought to know what I want out of that conversation. And I ought not have any ambiguity about what you want and what you need. It ought to come out. Willing, this is another thing about assertive people, willing to compromise. Look, this is what I need. Can we do that? This is what I really want to happen. Can we do that? Well, no, we can't do all. Okay, what can we do? We'll do it. And so we compromise. So that's some good stuff. So another thing is we stand up for our own rights. If you're an assertive individual, you don't just let people take all of your rights away. You stand up for your own rights, willing to compromise but not give up on them. You have a confident tone and confident body language. You don't go down with your head down and all of that stuff. You also don't come rushing up on somebody screaming and yelling in their face. You don't do that. That's not good. Or you don't do either one of those. The last thing is, look, in this country, we make good eye contact. We look each other in the eye when we talk. Yeah, that's what we do. What does it mean when a person answers a question and looks off to the right? What does it mean if they look off to the left? Yeah, one of them is that they're thinking about a better answer. The other one is they're just off his line. So, questions, comments, snide remarks. I appreciate that. We're gonna talk though. We got an appointment. So, anybody got any questions, comments, snide remarks, anything at all? You know what? That's a good thing. That being assertive, I can tell you that what that means is that was one of the best weeks y'all ever had. I taught that well. I'm glad you're shaking your head up and down because you did it. You was even talking to somebody else and you learned something. So thank you, ladies.